So over on the red side in this one, we have Cheer Up and Faust, who are A and Z, probably one of the most well-known teams that we have in the tournament. And over on the blue side, we have Konus and Guerrero. Apologies for his name tag, that is not exactly
He's
very
a naughty
appropriate.
boy, and he should perhaps consider thinking about his actions, having a long sort of time to reflect.
Yeah, and today we're playing on Jungle Law. So, are you ready, Val?
I am definitely ready.
3, 2, 1, go. So what decks are both teams using today?
So we have Do What, which I believe is Konos, isn't it? Which has a Eurocore motorized deck, and Guerrero is using a NORAD deck. I have played Guerrero a few times, and he has been a bit of a frequenter of the old Raven Longbow Nighthawk cheese. I'm not sure if he'll try something like that this game. It does work quite well. But on the other side, we have Cheer Up with an Eastern Bloc deck, and Faust with a Sovco deck, which is a nice bit of a classic one. That's the one he used, or at least maybe not the exact deck, but it's the Soviet Korean coalition deck he used for quite a few of his Reddit tourney games, which he had so much success with. And I've been let's find out, what did they want me to post.
So yeah, we have Cheer Up with the Eastern Bloc deck, which they're using it with the Sovco, and I feel like this whole like Eastern Bloc with like Russian units to complement is such a good like combination for these teams. Like the 2v2s, we've always seen like either a Soviet deck or like a Sovco deck with an Eastern Bloc deck, and it seems to be like the meta at the moment for the pack side. We haven't seen much variation from that, and it's good to see that these players are going to be playing meta and definitely bringing a strong fight to this map. It's interesting to see the NORAD deck come out from Guerrero. It will be the first one I believe we've seen in the tournament. So like you were saying, the old Longbow Nighthawk cheese, we might see that come out. There's definitely a longbow already being placed by Guerrero. And then we have, what was it Konos was using?
He was using a Eurocore motorized, which is quite an interesting deck, really.
Yeah, not something that I would have really thought coming into this deck or coming into this game would be a thing, but there is a lot of forests, and that will mean that the fast infantry will come into effect quite a lot. He's just got to make sure that he can engage exactly where he wants to, else in the open fields that are around this map, he could get caught out quite heavily by heavier tanks.
That's definitely true. I mean, I think what Konos wants to do is get a fast secure into Echo, and then probably try and send his infantry into Gulf and the area between Gulf and Echo. But I mean, it's kind of interesting because a lot of the time teams on the red side won't even try to contest Echo, just because it is so much easier for them to get to from the blue side. So I think what we'll probably see is a large investment into Gulf and Mike from NZ here.
Yeah,
and,
what I've noticed already is that Konus has put out two Celtics and a couple of cannons, and Guerrero has already put down a couple of DAPs. I'm not entirely sure they're going to need 4 anti-air helicopters at the start of this game, especially considering like since yesterday we haven't seen any like heavy helicopter starts whatsoever, and it means that like I don't think in this game we're going to see a lot of helicopter action, and maybe those anti-air helicopters may come in a bit maybe a bit useless at the start of the game.
I think it might be, although I do need to take a second to just say, Faust, I don't want to damage anyone's hearing. Please no sound bites of Patton sounding a little confused with life. Yeah, let's go back to the game. We do see a lot of these BMP ones coming out from Big Mike from Cheer Up with moat shoots in them. And again, I think most of the sort of meat of the ANZ forces are going to be going to Golf and Mike. Generally, I think this Eastern Bloc deck is going to have quite a nice time in Golf, because the Eurocore deck is motorized, so it's not quite as cost efficient. we've used that word quite a lot in these replays, but because of the price of the transports a lot of the time, and also the fact that compared to the BMP-1, most of the transports are very, very useless. Once those moat shoots and the BMP-1s get into Gulf, they're going to outclass everything the Eurocore deck can send it, and they're also going to outclass pretty much everything apart from perhaps the Canadian rifles in TH-495s that Guerrero has in the NORAD deck as well. So it's going to be quite interesting to see if they can actually really stand toe-to-toe with the really fantastic Eastern Bloc infantry.
Yeah, I think the main issue doesn't necessarily come from like the moat shoots. I mean, it's basically the combination of the BMP-1 and the moat shoots. And so I think Konis has his work cut out, or Guerrero has his work cut out, trying to counter that with enough fire support. And he's going to have to make sure he has enough tanks in order to do that. It looks like Guerrero will be hitting that Eastern Bloc deck head on. But the MBT-70, that is actually a very interesting choice. That could be a good choice for taking down the moat shooting squads, because it does have the autocannon and the main gun, and it also has an ATGM which you can engage the BMP-1s from a further range, so that could be very interesting. I'm also hoping to see the M1 IP Abrams would be a very cost-effective tank against moat shooting and BMP-1s, and then if he provides enough other units like maybe some US Marines and stuff with LVTPs, they could be a good counter to a lot of moat shooting.
They definitely could.
Down in this bottom side, we do have the AMX 10RC is all that's going to be heading down the centre. Although, one thing I was saying about this map previously was that this road just below Gulf, it's very often that a vehicle could easily just run all the way through the map and pick off like an inexpensive recon unit, or maybe even a command unit if they're unlucky. And also there is the tarmac road below Gulf, but also the dirt road below that. If no infantry is put across that road, then that's another easy way for teams to like flank each other by going through the middle, which is not often something you hear, but it's definitely a possibility on this map.
Well, it's because the middle is kind of, it's very often neglected, because again, it's not actually directly a point to secure, but especially from the blue side, I think the blue side has a much better time in using this middle area. Simply because I just feel like Juliet is a much easier prospect to try and harass than Bravo is, because of the bridge defenses for Bravo. And as well, I suppose it's a bit conversely, because Hotel is very hard to take as well from that sort of middle area. But I mean, we'll have to see, because if ANZ or Konis and Guerrero, for that matter, can apply enough pressure in the areas that they're fighting, the enemy team may have to try and play reactionary, and when that happens, their sort of potential to attack to this middle zone is greatly diminished.
Yeah, so Cheer Up's literally sending nothing to this bottom side by the looks of things, whereas it looks like there's going to be a little more coming out from Konis down there, so it'll be interesting to see if there's any contention between Hotel and Echo. But it looks like the majority of the forces will be heading up to the top side of the map. Golf and Mike going to be fought over quite heavily, but I believe MI8 MTV and a second one coming across. One's got command infantry, going to land in Lima, I would expect. Then we have the MI8 MTV heading round to the top side of Mike. We do have a MiG-21 BIS Lazur coming in. That does have very good air detection, so that will spot a lot of these helicopters, but the Rafale coming in to shoot that down. Nice use of that Rafale. Similar to Heiliger, it seems that the Rafale is chosen as an air superiority fighter from the start of the game quite often, every time these Eurocore decks have come around.
That's very interesting to me. I honestly, I'm not sure I would have expected that coming into these replays, but I mean, it's what we found out. And Faust is pushing on this top side into Mike. He's got his T90S and a little bit more to support as well with his infantry. And just like we expected, Mike is going to push pretty hard into Gulf, I think. He's got a Moderna with him, and it's definitely some heavy firepower to smash off against the equally heavy M1A2 and infantry that Guerrero is bringing. Although, actually, that being said, it looks like Konos is basically seeding Gulf, which I think is honestly a fine decision, really, because they're going to get Echo, or they should get Echo. So they can kind of afford to give up the mid area, because if they take Mike as well with these heavy tanks that Guerrero's bringing, the longbow, that does mean that they'll be at a 2-point lead, or a 1-point lead, sorry.
One of the MH60L DAPs did get shot down by the OSA AKs on the top side at Mike. All of the flat MGs did get taken out as they approach the right side of Gulf. There is going to be a small amount of infantry in the right side town in Gulf to stop enemy APCs from just running through there, but a lot of infantry heading up to Mike, which is not something that you see very often, mainly because it's such an open and wide sector, which allows for a lot of fire support from this ridgeline just above it. Raven coming in though, did get one of the OSA AKMs, does not hit the second. The Flacom OSA AKs missed both their missiles. That Raven does have a nice 50% ECM, so it does get out of there scot-free.
It does. I like the use of this ADATS from Guerrero because, I mean, it is a very, very risky unit to use, but that 2,800 meter range against ground units, and as well with that 25 AP, really provides kind of a very scary wall of ATGM fire for any tanks moving across Mike. So Faust has to be very careful. He has to use the flanks very carefully, and I think ensure that his infantry does most of the work before he pulls the T90 in. In fact, he's actually pulling the T90 straight into med. I think he realizes that attacking into Mike at the moment with that T90 is a little bit too dangerous.
Yeah, well, the Legion's just gone down in the right side of Gulf, which is going to give up that right side town. The T-72M2 Moderna finally took out the Milan 3 squads before it got killed, taking that Moderna down to 3 health. Got to be careful that that doesn't get sniped by any HGM planes. This top side though, Guerrero pushing into Mike. It seems silly. You can't control both sides of Mike without controlling Gulf, because if the enemy controls Gulf, all they're going to do is flank up into where you would normally place your command vehicle or command infantry in Mike. That you can't capture Mike without controlling Gulf.
That's true. Nighthawk coming in though, and this longbow as well. If it gets shots off onto that T90, along with that Nighthawk, that could be dangerous. But the Strop 2, wonderfully positioned, and it's going to take out that longbow, and the T90 will survive on 2 HP as well.
Yeah, so 2 HP for that T90S. Yeah, that longbow did go down in the end after being stunned. The MTB-70 is finally engaging these BMP-1s, but they've already dropped off the Moat Schutzen and they've got into the far side forest. And I mean, this MBT is moving forwards, but I think there is a chance for that T90S to move forwards and snipe that. It definitely would have a quicker aim time once it can get rid of its panic stat. So I think that's why he's reversing it for now, is just to let it calm down, and then he could use that very effectively. The Celtic coming up, not entirely sure why, getting shot down for free by the Strop 2. In this bottom side of Echo, there is no command unit there just yet, which is a bit unfortunate, because if there was, then currently they would be on a +1 lead for Conus and Guerrero, but they are not. Now, what is interesting to see is this MBT is pushing very, very far up at the moment, and that's going to leave it very vulnerable to this T-72M2 Moderna that's sneaking through this forest and will be firing down towards that MBT very shortly.
That's
and
true.
There it goes.
Now, Faust and Mike can pull back their super heavy tanks and try and resupply them. And that was just a series of very nice trades. With that, starting off with that longbow and then finishing with that MBT-70. And now ANZ does have full control over Gulf. And one of the big things about this, not just flanking into Mike, you can also cut off the reinforcement point in Foxtrot, or the reinforcement path through Foxtrot very effectively by controlling this forest that Mike is now moving his infantry into.
Yeah, so these Moat Schutzen coming across is going to make it hard to control Foxtrot, because as soon as any tanks get into the right side of that forest, and they get complete cover over Foxtrot due to the ridge there, Raven getting another kill, does get hit by one of the OSA AK missiles, which does mean that Raven will be repairing for a while. But if I just show you guys, there is this ridge here on the map that does cover all of Foxtrot, and that basically will allow them to cover that going forwards. And I mean, this M1A2 Abrams that Guerrero's got in Mike at the moment, that's very out of position, and that will get taken out once it gets found, I believe.
Well, the big thing about that Abrams is that, I mean, yes, it can fire a little bit, it can do some damage, but it's literally got one ADATS for support, and that is not adequate for anti-air against anti-tank planes. Especially, we've seen how effective that, you know, some of the SE-25Ts, the MiG-27Ks, and especially those MiG-27Ss, or Ms even, should I say, have been. A beautiful push though by Cheer Up and Faust with all these Pachongsu and these Moat Shoots as well. Although I say that and a Nighthawk comes and destroys those poor Moat Shoots.
Yeah, they are dead for sure. And it was interesting to see a tornado bomber come in from Guerrero. He tried to... Oh, not Guerrero, sorry, from Konus. He tried to bomb these Pachongsu, but he didn't really predict it correctly. But now a Sea Cobra coming up from Guerrero with that Vulcan minigun, going to help kill off these remaining squads. The Moat Shoots in there, getting wrecked by the DAP and the Sea Cobra. But that Sea Cobra is going to take a shot from the LSTR-40 that are sitting in the distance, and that goes a Sea Cobra. And that's quite an expensive helicopter to lose, to be honest.
Well, it just goes to show how fantastic these LSTR-40s are, because they just fill that beautiful multi-role purpose. They are like the beautiful multi-tool of Eastern Bloc infantry.
Yeah, but now that infantry's all gone there, the Jaegers and the Legion cleaning up, they just need to get rid of these last couple squads of Moat Shoots, and maybe they can take back that right side forest covering Gulf. But currently, Cheer Up and Faust playing with a +1 lead as they do manage to get the command infantry into Gulf. They are sitting it in that sector though, that one sector in the middle of the town there, the only one that's covered by line of sight, but it gives away that position very easily.
I think we had, what was it, almost every single game in the Reddit 3v3, almost every single game, that's the only place people will put their command infantry. Ladies and gentlemen, please have some diversity in your command placement. That one block has just seen so many command infantry over the years.
I honestly think the best place to put the command infantry in Gulf is just down that cliff on the left side of the top. I mean, at the moment it's pretty risky for them to do that because they don't have full control over the top side of the Gulf, but it's still, in my opinion, probably one of the best places to put it because it's very hard to spot and very hard to predict, whereas that in the town there, I mean, just put a bombing run in that town and you'll probably find the CV every time. But
you probably will.
What I find funny is how like these teams have not learned that by now. This AH-1J Cobra in the top side absolutely wrecking some Pachongsu caught out in the open. And it looks like with some Canadian rifles coming in from Guerrero, they have managed to clear out the rest of the Moat Shoots on the right side forest of Gulf.
They have done, but they do have these MTVs and the Mi-17s to deal with as well, and they will absolutely annihilate that infantry. And as well, this MH-60L DAP coming in to try and deal with that, but unfortunately is going to get in range of that Tunguska and take him down. Although it does manage to do the job though.
Yeah, the DAP is going to manage to get those stingers off. I believe your game might be a little bit ahead of mine at the moment.
It's a little bit ahead.
Yeah, because I think my game's lagging slightly due to the movement of some files. But this MTV with the 122mm rockets is going to help destroy these Jaeger squads as they come to the edge. And the Volkswagen Jaeger 90s will probably get hit pretty hard as well. Rafale hovering overhead, Tornado ECR coming in to try and get some hits onto radar AA, but it's not going to hang around for very long. MiG-27K, is it going to get hit by the second missile? Yes it is. MiG-27K goes down over Lima as the Rafale flies away safely.
Look at this, just huge lot of planes they've got coming in. The Hornet, the Nighthawk, the Raven, and that T-90S is in for a very bad time.
Yep, the Hornet destroys it. The Nighthawks bombing the Flatcom OSA AKs doesn't land the strike on target, however, but the Tornado IDS coming over didn't even drop its bombs and goes down as well. So they lost a Hornet and an IDS, and that IDS nearly went straight into that Gazelle cannon. That would have been hilarious, but not quite. Canadian rifles are revealing themselves with their APCs as they head out into the open and straight into some LSTR. The LSTR-40 should have no problems with dispatching those APCs and cleaning up that low squad of Legion. But as these reinforcements are coming up in the Fuchs, those Jaegers that are basically in those will be able to flood that town and force those LSTR out, as a couple of those squads are very low on health.
They definitely are. It's actually been quite a nice pushback from Guerrero and Konos with the, especially with all these Canadian rifles. But you know, if Chirrup can micro this LSTR unit with a one-man back, he can kill this this transport and maybe go and repair that squad.
Oh, the M1A2 is making a retreat and the Serio 30 is coming in. Oh, the Serio 30 was pulled away by Chirrup because he's noticed there is 2 Rafales in the air. And that Serio 30 is not going to last very long, but neither is the Rafale, as it does fly directly over a Strop 2 and the Tunguska M. So, honestly, in my opinion, that's not a very good trade. He wants to keep those Rafales alive as much as possible, and he didn't need to go that close to enemy AA in order to kill that
this
Serio 30.
M1A2 may get side-shotted. Oh no, he doesn't, never mind. There's M1A2 playing with fire a little bit with that VDV-90 squad, but luckily it's just quite safe. But I mean, honestly, that M1A2 hasn't really done much this game. He sort of sat it around, just kept it in the corner of Mike, but really just hasn't done anything specifically impressive with it, I think.
Yeah, well, so far what's happened in this game is there's still no command vehicle or infantry in Echo, and it's meant that, like, Konos and Guerrero have been bleeding that one point for so long now. Why are they not sending a command vehicle to Echo? It's ridiculous. This could literally be neutralizing the point, and also earlier on it would have given them the lead. But currently they are sitting 163 points behind to 10 points, simply because of that one point in Echo not being captured. That is just such a huge mistake in a game at this high level.
It really is. I'm a little surprised because, I mean, we both know the value of having a points lead even if you're on neutral points, and they had that opportunity, and they've had that opportunity for the past 14 minutes, and they just haven't taken it. They haven't put a CV in there, and I don't see one spawning either.
Yeah, I'm quite surprised in this top side to see SMORs and LVTPs being used instead of US Marines and LVTPs. SMORs and LVTPs is always great and is very good against like tanks and so on because of the high rate of fire of the SMOR. But you really do need some standard infantry support to make them effective and to cover them against other infantry, because SMORs can get overrun very quickly due to their like low squad sizes.
They can do, but
their biggest issue.
You do have to remember they can hit infantry, so they're quite good at stunning infantry. So they actually do make a good combo with that LVTP.
But if they get shot at by infantry directly, then the panic status on a SMOR affects them so much worse than it would if they would have standard machine guns, and because they use rockets. So like the panicked nature does actually really harm your like the rocket firing capability of a small squad. So as soon as they get a direct engagement, they're just toast, really. That Nighthawk's going to get away with that bombing strike onto the VDV, and the Raven got a really nice kill there as well, I believe. But still plenty of radar AA from Cheer Up. He's got 4 OSA AKs and a Tunguska M and a Strop 2. That's pretty crazy stuff in terms of AA, and now he's bringing up some more moat shoots in with those BMP-1s. He's not going to run out of them anytime soon. Tornado ECR coming up for Konos. Doesn't look like he's going to get a kill on that top side, unless he did manage to get something. One of the missiles did fire.
He fired an anti-helo missile.
An infrared missile. Yeah.
Sidewinder against the Mi-8 MTV. But I mean, Mike is really just waiting for this command, and as I say that, I notice Fat is bringing a T-72K1 because it's pretty much all secured by ANC. That topside forest is very important to take. Once you've got control of that, and once you've got enough of a control on the bottom side, it's really easy to send yourself a man. And also that M1A2 Abrams is now on 2 HP, so very, very dangerous position for him.
Well, he was engaged with the T-90S that's retreating into Gulf now. That's on half health. It looks like the T-90S hit one more shot than the M1A2 did. But the Mi-17 pushing forwards there, getting some heavy hits in, but ran out of ammunition now. He's not going to be able to finish off that Abrams.
He's got the vision though. He's got the vision. This Syria 30, I think, is going to try and come in to get to the kill.
Yeah, but the Rafale might save the day.
I think he will. He lost sight anyway, unfortunately.
The Syria 30 there just got away with that. The Rafale missing its missiles, and the Su-27PU not getting the Rafale either. So both players getting away with their planes, and no one really lost anything from that air attack. Centurion Marksman coming up for Guerrero to support his infantry in the centre here, and that should absolutely wreck those Motschutzen. Raven coming up is going to take out one of the Tunguskas that was left on, and one of the OSA AKs goes down, but so does the Raven finally. The Tornado ECR Raven coming back in after, and that takes out the OSA AK, or one more of them at least. So 4 of those OSA AKs turns into 1 OSA AK after all of those siege strikes, so that's actually pretty good and allows him to be much more diverse with his air attacks from now on, as he will be able to maybe bring in some more bombers to start dealing with these Motschutzen a bit better.
It does, but Konos, fire CV for Echo. He's sending some troops in now towards Echo, but they're bleeding -2 points. Why would they not capture that?
That's literally killing them.
How
can they not notice this for the whole game? It's actually soul destroying. Like how
it's sad. It's just sad.
How do you not notice this is uncapped? What are you doing, Konos and Guerrero? You could have been winning this game. Honestly, they've been playing it pretty well. And they haven't been overrun too much. They've sort of gained back ground towards Gulf, and now they're just bleeding points unnecessarily. Like, well, at least they have been the whole game. They would have been ahead, but they're just not. Now they're +2 behind in terms of income, and 262 points, but like ahead of their 10. Like, it's ridiculous. And now with that T-72 sneaking into the backside of Mike, that's like secured that. So, I mean, it's just that is just such a big mistake that they can't afford at all.
It really is, and I mean, to be honest, they'd still be losing this game anyway, I think, because ANZ has done a fantastic job of securing Mike and gold, but it's just one of those small things that it's just so confusing.
Maybe the hope would have encouraged them to do better, because if they'd seen that they were taking a lead, then maybe they would have played a bit better. But
maybe. But
the
I mean,
AMX-30 B2 Brennis there was trying to take on a Moderna, getting a bit ambitious as a VDV-90 does get a side shot into the Brennis as it tries to retreat. Hornet coming in.
Does get one.
Does eventually kill the Moderna. The Su-27PU is a bit close to the Hornet to get on target.
Goes down.
And does go down, yeah, to the Centurion Marksman and the Gepard A1. So now the Commandos Para being engaged by a couple of VDB squads and the Motschutzen, and of course the BTRD, but they will be able to defend themselves quite well. That Centurion Marksman really needs to move to the edge there and help take out this VDV-90, although that Vampire rocket would probably wreck it pretty quickly. But
yeah, it was, unfortunately.
The thing is, where else are you going to use that? He's going to retreat that through the forest now, and he's going to have to take it out of the forest away from the VDV-90. He can't let those infantry units get so close. He should have moved it up further, quicker. As soon as that T-72 died and that was no longer a threat, he should have gone ahead and moved it to the edge of the forest to kill off the VDV before they could get too close and get in the forest, because now the marksman's pretty much useless.
Pretty much. I mean, you'll see the way to use it is to try and engage in the Canadian rifles first and then bring it from behind to engage, but again, the problem with that is, you know, against good players like Cherub and Faust, they're going to manually target that Centurion, I'd say the majority of the time, so it's a bit unfortunate. I just got to say, I am very disappointed by the strategic choices we've seen from Konos and Guerrero. Like, we've talked about how they could have had the points lead, but I think it's more than that. I think, remember that we said this plenty of times about playing reactionaries, playing on the back foot, and playing on the back foot is basically putting yourself at a disadvantage for not too much reason. And they haven't tried to push into Hotel at all. That's a 2-point sector they could try and push from Echo, which they have a commanding control over. And they're just reacting constantly, just sending stuff to try and stem the tide. And yes, that's important to try and stop the blood flow in mid, but if you don't apply pressure somewhere else, all you're doing is playing not to lose. You're not playing to win.
Yeah, for sure. So anyway, the Sea Cobra did come in from Guerrero and kill off a lot of units until it ran out of ammunition. The M1A2 Abrams is fully fixed up and ready to go again, but is not being used, which is a bit unfortunate. And a lot of this infantry for Guerrero is also being killed off on this right side of Delta. Now, I was just wondering what exactly Konis is doing at the moment, because he seems to have lost the majority of his units. An HGM Milan F3 team does manage to snipe a unit in the top side. Rafale coming in, is that going to pick off this Area 30? Let's have a look.
Oh, it will do.
I'm not sure. I'm not so sure. Oh, just managed to actually hit some missiles in the end, but
Ooh, I'm in the future.
Rafale did get shot down by the Strop 2 in the end. So with that being the case, it looks like Guerrero and Konis are going to give up this game in order to give ANZ the victory after 22 minutes and 19 seconds.
I think the thing to take away from this is Konis and Guerrero finished that game with more kills than deaths. They lost that game by misplaying the kind of the pressure game. I guess that's the way that I'd say it. They didn't respond to the pressure that ANZ were placing very well, and they ended up just really failing to kind of get anything from any of those engagements. Nothing they were going to no fights they had in that mid side were going to win them the game. They were just going to stem the blood loss. That's all that was going to happen. At worst, they would have contested Gulf. Well, sorry, at best even they would have probably contested Gulf. And just things like not putting a CV into the bottom sector echo for the entire game is just it's a little ludicrous, really. I'm honestly just dumbfounded by how they wouldn't do that.
Yeah, considering their in-game ranks, you would expect them to have noticed that a bit sooner. Like, they didn't notice it for the entire game. There wasn't a command vehicle and echo for the entire game, and in my opinion, that could have, it could have encouraged them to do better. Like, they would have had a +1 lead for a very long time in that game if they'd moved the CV in there, and then they would have neutralized the lead that ANZ had after that. And then the lead after that ANZ gained would have only been +1 if they had that sector. So things would have been a lot better for Konis and Guerrero if they just had a CV in that sector. The main thing that I would say that Konis and Guerrero did wrong, though, is they focused on Mike without putting enough into Golf. Or was it Delta in the middle?
It was I think Golf was the middle. I think what they
Golf
did
was the middle.
was,
But if they focused on Mike way too hard, and they let themselves get flanked, and that is not something you can afford to do, especially if you're playing like NORAD, which does rely quite heavily on tanks. Because all that's going to happen is those T90s and T72 BUs and so on are literally going to sit up on that ridgeline and shoot into the side of all your units. And you can't afford to let that happen. You need to put pressure on Golf in order to be able to take Mike. You literally can't focus on Mike without taking Golf. It's as simple as that.
That's true.
And if they focused on Golf from the start and focused on getting enough infantry in there to hold it, then they could have pushed for Mike. But they just didn't do that. And then they also neglected that CV in the bottom, and it just added up to a defeat.